What's up guys, it's Unders and we are here with a new video, and this time we're having a look at the plate reverb PA1 from the guys at Physical Audio. I already did one video for the guys at Physical Audio around their dual spring reverb, so if you haven't seen that, it gives a little bit of insight into the company and how they work, so go and watch that first. That will give you a little bit of concept around their plugins and how they operate. What we're going to do today is just have a look at the plate reverb as well. We've got it on this pretty hard D&B track that I have been working on. What we're going to do is make a little chunky loop. I think like that. We'll have a nice big section. And I've only really got a couple of reverbs going in this track. I've got this Space Designer here with some of the drums going to it. That is literally it going into that reverb, but we're going to have a little listen to the plate reverb and redesign a bit of that snare. And then we'll try it in some other areas as well. I know on one of my leads, for example, that we use at the end, I was using reverb on there, so we'll see what we can do with the plate verb this. So let's see what we can get out of this little beauty. So going over the GUI, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you've ever used a plate reverb or almost any reverb, we've got our pre-delay. On this track, a nice quick pre-delay is definitely going to work, especially with that snare drum. We don't want too much like flim-flam palaver going on, so we might want to dial that right back. So that's almost instant. Now we've got the plate tension. So what this does is, I think a plate is held up by some strings and then you actually mic up the plate itself, and that's what gives the reverb. Now the tension of that plate depends on those strings that are pulling it. So this basically tightens or loosens those strings. Now the way Physical Audio work, this is not like a convolution system. As we turn that knob, it is going to adjust the calculation made for the tension. So it's completely a mathematical algorithm, which is pretty cool. So let's have a listen to what that does as we tweak it. It's quite a big difference. So if we listen to it right down here, and then we'll crank it all the way up. That's cool. Okay, so the plate area, as you can see, it's in meters squared. So it's the size of the big sheet that's going to be in there used for the plate. Let's give it a huge 6 meter squared sheet. And then we can do the aspect ratio of that sheet as well. What's quite nice up here is it gives you the recalculation of roughly what that plate would be. So that's huge now, it's tailing off for ages. What I want to do is dial this right back, small aspect ratio as well. Cool. Now my dry level can go all the way down to 0 because this is on a bus. I'm going to have the plate level, we're going to leave it at 50 for the minute and see where we are in volume wise. Yeah, I think that's okay. We could dial it in on the bus. Now the gain reduction for the high frequencies, I quite like it where it is. That's a bit too dark. I might actually leave a little bit more high in, let's bring it up to about 12. That's quite nice. Now across the bottom here, we can also change the type of plate. So we've got some different options. We've got steel, gold, silver, and titanium, aluminium. They've all got slightly different characteristics. I don't know how much we'll be able to hear it on such a short sound, but let's have a listen through them. So I actually think silver is my favorite there. We're going to roll with that and try and dial that into the mix. Last thing we've got over here on the right hand side, we've got the decay time, like the T60, and we can actually manipulate it very, very specifically across the frequency bands. So this is where it becomes ridiculously detailed in shaping the sound. See how that's made it sound quite hollow, because we've still got the high end and the low end. Alternatively, we can do the opposite. We can really shape this as detailed as we want. So I'm going to disable it, put the whole track in, let it play for a few bars, and then bring that in and let's try and hear what it does to the snare. Sweet, so that's sick. I hope you could hear what went on there. We had this really dry snare. Yeah, it cuts through the mix nicely, but it didn't really have any character. Now, when we switch that reverb on, it's still cutting through the mix, but it feels ever so slightly different each time, even though it is just a sample in this case. That worked really nicely. So let's listen to it again, disabled. I'm going to let this run. I'll let it run for 8 bars, and then we'll switch it on and let it run for another 8. So we'll get really used to the dry snare first. So I really, really like what that's doing. I'm going to have some fun with that. Absolutely, that's just wicked. I love the way you can shape that T60 time. So I've just given it loads of this high end that changes per hit and really sort of tailed it off. Well, that's essentially it, guys. That's what I've done with it. I'm going to keep playing with it. Check the guys out over at Physical Audio. The 2 reverb plugins they've made are absolutely stunning. They are creeping their way into my tracks that you'll be able to hear later this year. Thank you very much for your time. I hope the video was helpful for you, and I will catch you on the next one.